When Evil Dead 2 hit theaters in 1987, horror fans were left scratching their heads and grinning in disbelief. Was it a sequel, a remake, or just pure madness unleashed? Directed by Sam Raimi and starring Bruce Campbell, this film took everything that made the original Evil Dead terrifying and turned it into a twisted cocktail of gore, slapstick, and chaotic brilliance. It's a movie that bleeds insanity, literally, and somehow manages to balance pure horror with absurd comedy. Behind all that screaming, chainsaw buzzing, and demonic laughter, there are hidden stories, painful secrets, and creative tricks that turned a low-budget nightmare into one of the most influential horror comedies ever made. Here are 15 weird, shocking, and hilarious facts you probably didn't know about Evil Dead 2.1. It's a sequel that's also a remake. Most sequels continue a story. Evil Dead 2 completely reimagines it. Raimi didn't have the rights to use footage from the first film, so he had to reshoot the recap. That's why the opening scenes feel like a reboot of The Evil Dead. The first 10 minutes retell the story with new actors and effects, then launch straight into fresh chaos. It confused audiences for years. But that odd blend became part of the movie's strange charm. Half remake, half sequel. 100% mayhem, too. Raimi loved torturing Bruce Campbell, director. Sam Raimi and actor Bruce Campbell were longtime friends, but their friendship didn't save Bruce from punishment. Raimi thought real pain created the best comedy. Campbell was bruised, exhausted, and covered in fake blood daily. Raimi even had crew members throw real objects at him to make reactions more authentic. Campbell later joked that Evil Dead 2 was a love letter written in pain. The cabin was a fake. Inside a gym unlike the original Evil Dead, filmed in a real cabin, the sequel's cabin was built inside a converted gymnasium in Wadesboro, North Carolina. The team had no ventilation, the heat was suffocating, and the air reeked of syrup and latex. Cast and crew worked long nights under brutal lights that melted the makeup and prosthetics. It looked like a haunted house, but felt like a sauna filled with screaming people. Cow blood, paint, and oatmeal, the recipe for gore. There's a reason Evil Dead 2's blood looks so intense. It wasn't just fake. The crew used everything from cow blood to colored syrup, food dye, and oatmeal. Some blood was green, black, or blue. Not for artistic reasons, but because real red blood might have caused censorship issues. The mixture smelled so bad that some crew members nearly threw up between takes. The chainsaw hand was real and terrifying. The film's most iconic image, Ash's chainsaw hand, was no prop trick. It was a real working chainsaw, without the chain, strapped to Campbell's hand for long hours. It was heavy, dangerous, and nearly impossible to control. The actor could barely see, had limited movement, and risked serious injury every time he swung it. Raimi wanted realism, and Campbell delivered, through pure agony. Stephen King saved the movie after The Evil Dead became a cult hit. Raimi couldn't find funding for a sequel. Then, out of nowhere, horror master Stephen King came to the rescue. King had praised the first film publicly and personally contacted producer Dino De Laurentiis, telling him Raimi was a genius who needed backing. De Laurentiis agreed, and thanks to King's word, Evil Dead 2 came to life. Without him, there might never have been an Ash Williams legend. The deadite voices were homemade nightmares, those demonic voices. They weren't made with fancy studio tech. Raimi's team created them using reversed recordings of real screams, slowed down growls, and animal noises. Some were mixed with the sound of buzzing bees or crackling wood. The result was an eerie, inhuman blend that sounded like pure evil whispering through a forest. Bruce Campbell performed almost every stunt. Campbell's physical comedy was brutal. Every fall, slap, and hit in the film was performed by him. There's a scene where he's thrown across the room. And that was Campbell actually being yanked by hidden cables. He also performed his own hand fight scene, slamming dishes on himself and flipping over furniture. Raimi's only direction was, go crazier. The crew slept inside the filthy cabin set. The film's budget was tight, so crew members had to sleep inside the set. They were surrounded by fake corpses, sticky blood, and rubber demons. The smell of decaying latex and old syrup lingered everywhere. Some slept in their cars just to escape the stench. One crew member said, it was like living in hell's basement. 10. Raimi invented the evil cam to show the invisible evil force racing through the woods. Raimi and his crew created a simple but genius rig. They strapped the camera to a long plank of wood and ran full speed through the forest. The result became one of horror cinema's most famous shots. That chaotic, low-flying camera became a Raimi signature, used later in Spider-Man and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. The hand scene was inspired by Looney Tunes. When Ash's hand becomes possessed and attacks him, it's both horrifying and hilarious. Raimi told Campbell to act like a mix of Buster Keaton and Bugs Bunny, full physical comedy chaos. The result is one of the most insane performances in horror history, with Campbell battling himself like a cartoon character. Raimi even added slapstick sound effects during editing. Fake blood flooded the set. There's a scene where the room explodes with blood, drenching Ash completely. Raimi pumped over 300 gallons of fake blood into that sequence. It soaked the walls, lights, and crew. They had to stop filming for 2 days just to clean the mess. Bruce Campbell said it took weeks to get the sticky syrup out of his hair. The Necronomicon was made of chicken skin. The Book of the Dead was a disgusting masterpiece. The prop crew wanted it to look like it was bound in human flesh, so they layered latex, clay, and dried chicken skin to create its slimy texture. The book smelled awful under hot lights, but it looked terrifying on camera, a perfect piece of demonic art. Raimi's brother nearly passed out in costume. Sam Raimi's brother, Ted Raimi, played Henrietta, the grotesque basement monster. The latex suit he wore trapped heat, and with no air conditioning, Ted was drenched in sweat. Every time he moved, sweat poured out of the suit's neck hole. The crew called it the Henrietta Waterfall. He nearly fainted several times, but kept going. The ending was a gateway to madness, the Dam. Film's final moments, Ash sucked into a time vortex and landing in medieval times, weren't an afterthought. Raimi already dreamed of making a time travel sequel, which became Army of Darkness in 1992. That wild jump cemented Evil Dead 2 as not just a horror film, but a genre-bending masterpiece that mixed time travel, comedy, and nightmare horror into one unforgettable ride. Evil Dead 2 is a miracle of creativity born from chaos. It was shot on a shoestring budget by exhausted artists who loved the madness they were creating. Raimi and Campbell turned limitations into power, blending fear and laughter in a way no one had dared before. The movie broke every rule, inspired a new wave of filmmakers, and proved that true horror doesn't need Hollywood polish, just imagination, courage, and a lot of fake blood. Even decades later, Evil Dead 2 stands tall as the film that changed horror forever. A blood-soaked masterpiece where pain meets comedy, terror meets insanity, and one man with a chainsaw hand became a legend.